Showtime.
It's about that time.
Let's go.
You're right where you need to be. This is GCOM Radio.
Hardest radio station on the planet. Yeah.
Powered by Lyfeblood.com.
We certified.
And hosted by Nova Phoenix.
Give them that flavor.
What is going on, y'all? This is Nova Phoenix. I'm your host of GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio. And I don't have a lot to give you for this opening mentions, but what I do have is a special interview for you guys this week. A special guest we have on the show, and I will talk about it in the phone zone. So the only thing I would like to talk to you guys about quickly in 2 minutes is that this is the week. This is the last week of mentioning to you guys about voting. So early voting starts next week, the 24th, I believe. I'm going on the 26th. Yes, it's the 24th starts then. I'm going on the 26th. I'm voting. So this is it, folks. This is it, the final countdown. So we're just not going to vote for who we want to be in the big chair in this country, but we are also, and this is more important, going to vote locally. We're going to vote for everyone that has a seat open. We're going to do our research for our respective areas. We're going to see what the specific politicians have done. We want to continue to be in that seat. And if you find that this person has done nothing for the last 5, 6, 7 years, then it's time for the people to start getting together, sitting down and saying, okay, who do we want to be in this seat that's going to be to our benefit? That's going to be for our interests. And then you'll see, hey, I say put out a little flyer or something like that. Hey, who would like to be this, I know, this particular, say a congressperson or whoever to represent the community. It's up to the community to look for the people that's going to look out for them. And when you find that person, if that person steps up, if they answer the call, then you get behind them. And that's in every seat. Anyone, judge, DA, council member, senator, local senator, whoever that represents you as the constituency. So this is it, folks. This is it. And I wish I could have gave you guys more, especially for my fellow folk in New York. And I wanted to, but things have been crazy. I am actually moving, and there's been a lot of things going down besides that with business. I would love to have gotten down into a little bit of detail into who's representing us in say Brooklyn and Queens, because two of my favorite boroughs, let's just say that. And yeah, man, so yeah, it's voting time, man. I got my chair. I'm gonna get there early in the morning. I'm gonna be sitting down. I'm gonna be doing it, man. Come next week, I'm gonna be doing it. So yeah, man, vote. Let's go and vote, and we'll worry about all that other stuff afterwards. Understand? We ain't slowing down. We ain't putting down. We still going hard. We're gonna be chugging along like a train, like a locomotive, and we're gonna get at whoever's in office. So like I said before, it's not about the big bad meanie. It's about making sure we get what we want in 2020 and beyond. It's time to get involved. It's time to get involved. It is time to get involved. So, all right, let's go into the phone zone with this special guest that I have for you. And I'll see you guys when I'm going to introduce this music. All right, check this out.
You're in the phone zone with Nova Phoenix on GCOM Radio.
Okay, what is going on, y'all? This is Nova Phoenix, host of GCOM Radio. We are in the phone zone, and we have a special guest for you today. We have the Music Man, This gentleman goes back to the days of sneaking into rock concerts from Van Halen and Queen, starting early in his journey in photography. He was once a musician and later channeled that experience as an executive at Universal as the VP of Digital Sales and Marketing. He also worked for Sony and the Warner Music Group. Now, living in L.A., he has executed many a marketing strategy for a variety of artists like Elton John, Smokey Robinson, Nirvana, Bob Marley, and more. But while he was working at Universal, he decided to create his own label, a digital label called Label Logic, along with his partner, Jeff Moskow. Known for spearheading, everybody knows this, now. That's what I call music CD compilations. Now, I'm telling my age, because I remember buying one or two along the day, but that was where you wanted to get your music if you wanted to get like a list of favorite artists at the time, getting those Now CDs. Okay, so now, no pun intended, where he's currently working with a list of artists of their liking, him and Mr. Moskow, and of course, he's enjoying every moment of this new journey. Welcome, Jay Gilbert. How are you doing,
so much.
sir?
I'm doing all right. It's so good to talk to you.
Okay, fantastic. I'm glad we have you on this call because we had a little prelim before getting into Phone Zone. I'm like, man, this is getting good because it's like two music guys. One guy is in the music, one guy is another guy is just going at it, and it's like we're both familiar with the industry, and it's like we have a lot of things to offer and exchange ideas and what's going on in the music industry, especially dealing with this COVID thing, which is going to be one of these questions, folks, that I will answer later in the interview. So, Mr. Gilbert, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle, near Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Beautiful Pacific Northwest. And I've only been in California maybe about 25 years, but I kind of moved my way down the coast. I worked for Universal for nearly 20 years and worked for them in Seattle and Portland, Oregon, and Sacramento, and just kind of kept creeping down south, San Francisco, and then finally Los Angeles.
So you're a music man, and you got into music. I mean, as a musician in your early years, how was that?
Yeah, I used to, tour around and play live shows and make records, and that gave me kind of the foundation to understand what artists do. So when I work with artists today, I understand what a radio campaign is. I understand what sync licensing is and how records are made. And it's really a challenge these days because it's evolving so quickly. So what I'm really, really getting deep into these days is education. I speak at USC and UCLA music business programs every quarter. I publish a weekly newsletter that's free to help educate people called Your Morning Coffee that you can subscribe to for free at yourmorning.coffee. Yeah, I don't know how I scored that URL either. And then I do a podcast version of that too. So it's about education because this new music business is evolving and changing so fast that I want to make sure that people are up on all the different tactics and platforms.
I see. So what made you have that transition from being a music artist into the executive part of this music business?
I wanted to eat. No, I mean, I was an average musician. I played with some really great musicians, what I call players. I was never a player. I could learn a part, but it didn't come to me as easily as it did others. And frankly, I was working at Tower Records, and I got to know a lot of these. Yeah, remember Tower?
Yeah.
And I got to know all these reps from the labels that would come in.
Right.
And that seemed like a good job, and I interviewed for one and got it with Universal. It was then called MCA. Little did I know that I would be there for nearly 20 years, and in a variety of different jobs, but I loved every minute of it.
You know what? That was almost my path. I had the exact same.
Really?
I worked for a music store, and I got to know a lot of the music reps. And there's one particular lady who was real cool. She worked at Sony, and she was like, "Oh, why don't you come and work over here?" So, but I met the guy and it was cool, but it didn't work out. That's just wasn't my journey. But it was kind of similar. It could have been, but it was kind of similar to how it went down. But what was the song? What was that song that got you into music? That the song, like, oh man, I love music. Everybody.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in a really strange musical environment. My mother is a classical pianist. My grandfather played saxophone in big bands. So, when I was growing up, it was just music. It wasn't a genre, or, you know what I mean? Like, on the radio, I would hear Poco, Pure Prairie League, and the Eagles alongside of Wild Cherry and Earth, Wind, and Fire. To me, it was all just music, right? And so those early songs, I would buy these 45s at the store, and it was just whatever was kind of, on the radio. One of my favorites was Shining Star. Do you remember that song?
Yeah.
Shining Star by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, there it is. What your love can do. So that kind of set me on the journey. And my sister was really big into Motown. So I fell into that. My brother was really into like the Beatles and the Stones. So I kind of fell into that. And that's still kind of my comfort food. You go back to that. I've been really blessed in my career to work with a lot of my favorite artists. I've worked with Smokey Robinson as a photographer. I do that on the weekends. I shot the Temptations' last record and their 60th anniversary tour photos recently. And to be able to work with, like Otis from the Temptations and hear the stories, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing. But, right. You work in the business long enough, pretty soon you start to meet and work with these folks.
Yeah, right. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Have you ever, do you know any individuals from the Four Tops? Because I was just watching, it's funny, because I was just watching, what's that movie? I rewatched it with my kid. She kind of didn't get into it, but I love this. Little Shop of Horrors. And Audrey DuPont was the lead singer of the Four Tops, and I never knew that. I was like, what? He's the lead singer. Oh, man. I forgot his name. I can't remember. Oh, my God. So have you ever, bumped into
I don't know those guys, but I've seen the Tops did a lot of shows with the Temps. The Temptations and the Tops have done a lot of stuff together. And, man, you get those two bands together, if your body's not moving, you don't have a pulse, because it is the absolute best. And it just seems like every single song they play, the words to.
Right.
I just love that stuff so much.
So what got you still here? Why are you still here? I mean, you're here.
I am a technology fanatic. I love data. I love technology. When I was at Universal, I worked in an area called ECAT, which stands for Electronic Commerce and Advanced Technology. And it was just music and technology has just been my true love. So these days I can help artists and managers within my business to not any tricks. You and I spoke earlier about some tricks that people use that can get them in trouble. And we don't do any of that stuff. It's really more about optimization. You've got all these platforms, right? So I always tell people that when you're putting out music, there's a few things that you should think about. Number one is it's got to be planning. We always say that a playlist is not a marketing plan. Just hoping that you get on, Rap Caviar is not going to do it. Because even if you are, you're on there for a couple of weeks and then you're off. Now where are you? Yeah. Right. So you got to have a marketing plan. And listen, if you're a new developing artist and you don't have enough money to, hire Label Logic or somebody else, you do have a street team. And that street team is your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your mom, your friends. That's your street team. And you want evangelists. I would rather have an inexperienced person who is getting up every morning going, how am I going to make this happen? Over a highly paid person who just doesn't care. So get your team together, put together a plan. There's so many great resources on the web. I do 2 podcasts. My other podcast is Music Biz Weekly with Michael Brandvold, and we're all about educating do-it-yourself artists, managers on all the different tactics in the music industry. And we love doing that podcast because we can educate people. One of the big topics right now is, how do I get my music into film, TV, commercials, games? Well, we want to know. So we invited on the last couple of weeks, we had sync licensing people. Last week was Jess Furman from Big Noise. And man, you got to watch this podcast because she goes through all of the different ways that music is submitted for these things and what they look for and partners that you do. So that education process is a big part of what I do. And it's also selfish in some way because I get so much out of it too, because I'm learning as I'm teaching.
Right. And I think that's the difference of even from a teaching perspective, how it was 20 years ago, because you could literally teach something that came out 6 months ago and then you got comfortable, you're teaching it, and then something new, some other new technology comes out, and you got to learn that. And it's like,
That's
what?
right.
I just got over this one. Now I got to learn this.
It's so true.
So
it's evolving
crazy.
and changing so fast.
Yeah, man. So sometimes I throw out these questions just to be a little different, and to get people a little off kilter. Maybe some are off, some are not. But okay, what starts your morning? A stack of pancakes or eggs over easy?
Oh, I don't eat breakfast ever. That's a tough one. It's a cup of coffee. I'm a super early riser. Like I'm at my desk at 5 a.m. Always have been. My business partners, same thing. We're super early risers. Go on that morning walk. Drink that coffee. But if I was a breakfast eater, it would be the pancakes, man. Size of your head.
Yeah, I hear you. Probably you eat around, I guess, 11 or 12 in a meeting or something like that. Stuff in your face. Like, okay, what was that, the quarterly earnings? Okay, so do you still feel the drive to go hard in this game, or you feel that you're in cruise control? I mean, just loving of what you're doing.
It's harder. Harder meaning I go after it harder. Look, you need to find something that you enjoy. I tell my kids this all the time. You need to find something that you enjoy for your business. We spend so much time at work. I'm at my desk maybe 12 hours most days. You have to find something that you're passionate about because, as the saying goes, if you do, then you never have to work a day in your life. So the more I learn and the more I get to work with really great people, the more inspired I get. So I think I work harder now than I ever have, but I enjoy it more than I ever have.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way. Especially, and that line is so true. When you do something that you love and you're passionate about, it just doesn't seem like work, and hours just fly by. But as you know, as we all know, people used to go to New York and LA. I'm from New York. You're from LA.
Yep.
As the cities to make it in the music business. I don't feel that now. Is that still the case, or has technology just said, okay, forget cities, we're off to the races here?
Well, it's still about some of these big population areas just because of the sheer number of people. And let's take, since it's a COVID world right now, let's take touring out of the equation just for a quick second. I would argue that Nashville is every bit as important as New York and LA. And there are so many other great markets like Detroit. I mean, there's Seattle for a long time. But what's happened today is a lot of these socials and digital service providers, they're global. So, we're finding with some of our artists that they're blowing up in China. They're blowing up in India. They're blowing up in the Nordics. And a fan is a fan. Unless you're trying to route a tour, let's say through the U.S., when we're marketing and advertising, it's a global stage now. I don't care if you're listening and you're in Zimbabwe, that is awesome. You're every bit as important as a fan in Portland, Oregon. So
it ain't Kansas no more, Toto.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's a global market. Right.
And you got to think like that because it's really crazy. But as you put out music, it's also a double-edged sword. What I tell artists today is that you're not competing with the local bands anymore. You're not competing with the regional bands anymore. Right. If you're putting out music, you're competing with Drake and the Chainsmokers because your music is on Spotify right alongside of theirs. Right. And if your imagery doesn't look as good, if you're not as produced as well, if your songs aren't written as well, it's not going to cut it.
And, even if you're specific with where you're marketing, say the United States market, or whatever local market. That doesn't mean it's staying within that market, that zone,
right.
because it's a global stage.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it starts in the United States, all of a sudden the way people talk online, it'll go to China in no time. So regardless if you want to make it on a global stage as far as your marketing strategy or starting it regional, it's still going to hit. It's the waves are going to go through, and it's going to hit the globe anyway.
That's right.
But
stop it.
It's all execution. It's all execution.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know this music business is crazy, all right? It's full of debauchery, sin, but it's not as bad as people make it seem to be. Now, there's a lot of hardworking, thoughtful people. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it used to be a crazier business. There used to be, we used to joke around, that it's all, hookers and blow and all this other stuff because it got this reputation early on. But it became a business, a very serious business. And then, with streaming coming in, there's not as much revenue necessarily initially as we had in the height of CDs. So some of these record companies contracted and people were left behind having to do multiple jobs. So they call it the music business because, it is a business. Can you still have fun and enjoy it? Absolutely.
Sure.
But you're not going to, it's very rare that you go to an industry party or backstage at a show and you see debauchery. These people have grown up. They know it's a business. They take it very seriously.
You still hear the bad stories. And I remember the artist before we got into this. I remember her. Kesha. Kesha was the artist. All right. So now she had her whole situation with the manager. I'm sure it's still probably going on. And it's sad that you have artists of that stature, that point of her career, having to go through all that. I mean, these are just some of the cases, but sometimes people get scared because they hear these stories.
Yeah.
I
what
think
Prince went through.
Look what Prince went through. All right.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about, as what you said, it also we said earlier, or you said earlier rather, it's about education. And a lot of times we think because these artists are major artists in our eye, because we see them everywhere, and then all of a sudden they haven't really done all their business. One particular artist that I know of is Redman. Redman's a rapper. Everybody knows Redman. And come to find out, he did an interview, probably I saw this interview about 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. And it turned out when he first started in his career, and to me that was major, he didn't even do his publishing. He just made these records and put them out there. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He didn't do his publishing. So he missed out on a whole lot of money.
Yeah, you see
how
all
often,
the time.
You see, okay, and that was my next question. How often do you see that as far as people outside of your sphere of the people that you deal with? How often do you see people not taking care of their business?
All the time. And we've had people on the podcast talking about how there are lawyers now that are helping people to kind of go back and right what was wrong. But there's a common misconception in the music industry. One of the things that you'll hear a lot, artists and managers will come to me and they'll say, well, we're, let's say it's an artist. They'll say, well, streaming services rip people off and they're not really paying people what they're worth and it's only a fraction of a penny. And my response to them is, well, actually they're paying out pretty much the same as what, iTunes paid out. And the common misconception is that they pay artists. They've never paid artists. They pay the rights holders, the same as what Apple iTunes did, the same as what Tower Records did. They don't pay artists. So let's talk about the rights holder. Who is that? Well, that's typically the label. So let's say that you have a recording deal with a record label. Well, you're signing a contract with them that they're going to invest in you. They're going to do things for you. Maybe it's tour support, marketing support, advertising, publicity, whatever it is. They're going to invest some money into you. They're also going to give you an advance. Now, of course, that advance you've got to pay back. That's what a recoupment is, right? But here's where people go wrong. They'll say, well, I got my statement and I'm only making this much. And we'll say to them, well, is this a controlled composition? Meaning, did you write the song?
Right.
And they're like, well, there's co-writes on it.
Well, today,
that's right. Most of the popular music today are co-writes. Well, that dilutes that because you're paying multiple people for that. But I would say to people who complain about streaming revenues, that a stream isn't worth a download isn't worth a CD, and that you really need to look at your agreement with your record company, because some of these record companies are making very, very good money right now. And I know some artists who are making very, very good money right now with streaming. So you got to have a good deal.
Man, I got to tell you, there's so many questions I got to ask, and we will get to that. We will get to that. And that's coming next. That's actually the next question. And so you gave a little taste.
Okay, so that was Jay Gilbert. Yes, that was Jay Gilbert giving us some little knowledge, a little bit of his background. And we're going to get into some music right now. So this particular artist group, I have to say I love, truly, from the deepest parts of my heart. Yeah, man, they're called the Lyfers. The reason, or part of the reason why I like them, because of the name. You know, Lyfers is part of Lyfeblood.com. Yeah, they're the Lyfers. So they got this song called It's a Shame. Now, this the other side of why I like this group, because this particular group has an 80s vibe. That's their whole shtick. They got this 80s theme like Soul to Soul or Snap, CNC Music Factory, good George Michael, Madonna, Michael Jackson. So they're taking that vibe of the 80s and they're making it a part of who they are, their image as a group. The Lyfers, and their song is It's a Shame. So you're gonna really dig this song. And we're gonna follow up right after them with Yeah Jordan. These brothers is coming out of Rochester, New York. The name of the song is Ice Cream for the Block. And I like this vibe, man. Real slow vibe. Just, really want to tell you what they are and how they doing it. And I like the vibe, man. So check out the Lyfers with It's a Shame. And right after that, it's Yeah Jordan, Ice Cream for the Block. Okay.
Oh, it's a shame. What a damn shame. You don't get the love. The love that had you rushing home to the arms of the man you love. Baby, oh, it's a shame. What a damn shame. You don't get the love. You can't deny it's what you're missing. You can tell that I got plenty of. Right, baby. Seen it all before.
You know what you're rocking to?
Rocking with the best.
Only the best. GCOM Radio.
What I'm trying to say is that I got what you're looking for. You ain't gotta look for. Baby, you ain't gotta look anymore. Oh, it's a shame. You know it. Baby, you ain't gotta look anymore. Oh, it's a shame. What a damn shame. You don't get the love. The love that had you rushing home to the arms of the man you love. Baby, oh, it's a shame. What a damn shame. You don't get the love. You can't deny it's what you're missing. You can tell that I got plenty of. Right, baby. Seen it all before. First I wasn't sure. I get itchy, pull me in and make me scream for more. What I'm trying to say is that I got what you're looking for. You ain't gotta look for me. Baby, you ain't gotta look anymore. Oh, it's a shame. You know it. Baby, you ain't gotta look anymore. Oh, it's a shame.
Hey, turn it up. GCOM Radio on iHeartRadio.
La 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 la. I wake up, stare at the ceiling. I'm alive, good day, what a beautiful feeling. These beats get murdered, call that making the killing. Slinging verbal birds on the net, that's digital dealing. My OG told me kitchen smelling like burnt plastic. Niggas catch a fade, but I ain't talking no clippers. Rats playing the raid, feds snapping on pictures. Instagrams is what he called his plug on speed dial. Had niggas mamas fiend out, families in denial. He said, it's a lot of regrets with this life of trapping. Be you, stay focused and you'll make it with rapping. And I did, I come from a family full of hustlers. Coke in my veins, but I'd never been a customer. Like a dead doctor, I ain't got no patience. Life behind bars, instrumentals I escape with.
I just wanna hustle, I just wanna hustle, hustle. Get it with the muscle, tussle if I muscle. I just wanna hustle, I just need to hustle. Hit some towns with duffels, hit a town and shuffle. I just wanna hustle, I just wanna hustle. I got to get it with the muscle, tussle if I muscle.
That make it go.
Hustle, I just need to hustle. Hit some towns with duffels, hit a town and shuffle.
I wake up, I stare at the ceiling. I'm alive, good day. What a beautiful feeling. Not every day was like this. My god brother sell fish. He always FaceTime me, smoking French macaron for breakfast. Hey yo God, what's today's mathematics? Forever knowledge and letting go of yesterday's bad habits. Good characteristics. Can you smell my intentions? Playing well for my conference and I start my division. Hey yo, I'm caught up in the golden age, and today's the stolen days. The youth looking up in the head of me, gotta control my ways. Reppin' for kids with great parents with some worse tempers. Can't forget my last timers and my first bitters. Let's hustle, let's get it off muscle. That grass greener over this side, that soil gon' struggle. That foundation ground laid, gonna always hug you. Even if the cloud above ain't even upload you. We love you.
I just wanna hustle, I just wanna hustle. Get it with the muscle, tussle if I muscle. I just wanna hustle, I just need to hustle. Hit some towns with duffels, hit a town and shuffle. I just wanna hustle, I just wanna hustle. Get it with the muscle, tussle if I muscle. I just wanna hustle, I just need to hustle. Hit some towns with duffels, hit a town and shuffle.
This is GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com. Come join, be a lifer. Practice dollar power and build financial independence.
Okay, we have returned. We are talking with Jay Gilbert, the founder of Label Logic, his own digital label, and where we were talking about before music streaming. And music streaming it's always a hot topic for me. I've talked about it many a time, and I felt that music streaming, by the way the payment structure is, it doesn't work for artists. Now this is a new thing, and I was supposed to go through kind of like a step-by-step as far as how music has worked through with these new technologies that's been introduced into the business. And I always said that even with music streaming, you would have to be a major artist like, say, a Taylor Swift to make the type of money that music streaming would allow you through, how you get paid. But to me, the music business is mostly, as I call, blue-collar music artists. And blue-collar music artists are not going to stream into the millions like, say, a Taylor Swift or Kanye West. You'll probably get 100,000, 200,000. That's pretty good. That's good. That means people are listening to you. You're starting out. There was one time where I was listening to Vimeo on my television, and I'm looking at all these new artists. I have no idea who they are, but I'm listening to what is the new thing of today in 2020. And I go to their profiles, and I'm like, on their IG, and I'm like, okay, they got a following here. And I go to Spotify, and they're getting, whether it's 1 million streams or they're getting 400,000. But even if you get 400,000, based on the payment scale for, say, Spotify, it really doesn't work out for blue-collar artists starting out. Now, how do you feel about that as far as in the music business, how music streaming kind of been introduced to artists and how we're living it by it now? What do you think about that?
Well, I think music streaming gets a bad rap, but I do think that I'm a big believer that you go to where the party is. So you don't put all of your eggs in one basket necessarily. Like, you don't just stream. You should have CDs and vinyl available on your website, and when you play live shows at the merch table for you to sign and for people to take home. And you need to do all of that, and with music streaming, I look at it across the board with dozens of artists, and I can tell you that you can't just say that an EDM or a pop or a country artist streams and these other ones don't, because it varies so much. And even when it comes to payments, there's so much misinformation out there on how streaming services pay. Like we talked about in the last segment a little bit about it. But what a lot of people don't understand is they'll read some article and they'll say, oh, well, this digital service provider only pays this fraction of a penny. Well, that's not really true. And if you've ever looked at artist contracts or statements, you'll know what I mean. For example, when you get a statement, it's going to list what you make from Spotify's subscription service. It's going to list what you make from Spotify's ad-supported service. It's going to list what you make, from Spotify's college reduced rate services. And I could go on and on and on. There's so many different line items. They all pay a little bit different rate, but get this, each month, you don't just get that rate. There's a pool of money each month, and that's divvied up. There's a new thing called user-centric payments for streaming that people are fighting for right now. What that means is, let's say that I only listen to the Accidentals all month. I don't listen to any other artists. Well, my $10 for my subscription would go to them. That's user-centric. Right now, that's not how it works. It's a pool of money that's divvied up. And that pool of money varies every month. So the payout rates are going to vary every month. So roughly, when you see these percentages, take them with a grain of salt. There's so much more behind the scenes that you're not seeing. And just know that if you are the songwriter and you're also the performer, you're going to make a majority of that money. And if you go through a record company, remember, you've got an agreement with that record company, so that's going to dictate what you get. But if you don't, if you go through a DIY service like CD Baby, DistroKid, STEM, one of those, you're going to make the lion's share of that money. But the last thing I'll say is, streaming is not the bad guy. You just need to make sure that you have a good deal with your record company or your rights holder, and make sure that your music is everywhere. Stream, sale, download, physical, CD, vinyl, however anybody wants to consume that, you want to make sure you're available.
Well, which would you pick, digital downloading or music streaming?
Well, digital downloads are down almost 40% year over year. So they're going away in a big way right now. So would I still release music for download? Absolutely. Because you don't want to, one of the things that bothers me is when somebody, let's say, and this happens a lot with some of the newer pop, urban, hip hop music. When someone puts it out, they may put it out for streaming only. And what upsets me about that is I have a lot of friends who work in indie retail, right? And when they have clients, they have customers that come in there every week and they say, hey, I heard this song and I want to buy it. And then the guy behind the counter has to say, oh, sorry, that's not available here. You can only get that through streaming. So I don't think that anybody should put out music that's just one format. I think you should put it out in every format. You can do that inexpensively today.
Okay, so because it's interesting how history went. I find it, how we understand it, the music business, how it happened like 10, 15 years ago. What really upset the whole music industry was, everybody was ripping songs. It was Napster. It was LimeWire. It was it was a bunch of these other sites, and everybody was in a tizzy, like, oh my God. Because I understand as a musician, you work hard with your music, no different from any other job. You expect to be properly compensated by it.
That's right.
But then, Napster came in and ripped it. But of course, we got an equilibrium, and I think based on the idea, the concept of Napster, that's where iTunes kind of came in when that whole court thing was happening. Shut them down. It was like, hey, listen, this is what we'll do. We'll offer the music per song, 99 cents. You could get it like that. So that kind of, it kind of piggybacked that concept of Napster. So when everybody was like, hey, this is great. If people don't want to buy my whole album, they could buy my singles. And there were a couple of artists that said, hey, man, I can make a living off of singles alone. And that was a beautiful thing. And then it was like music streaming came into play. And before we could get kind of our feet wet with digital downloads, all of a sudden this new introduction of music streaming came into place. And then now there's I'm sure you've seen it, magazine articles saying, "Oh man, maybe this works, maybe this doesn't work," and the argument was tossing around these ideas back and forth that, okay, maybe it's not the greatest thing. Now, I'm not saying music streaming is not going to be there. I think it's a necessary thing, and to a certain capacity. But what do you think as far as being in the business? Do you know of any new methods that are coming out that could partner very well to go along with music streaming? Is anything that's happening that you've heard of as far as how artists can be compensated?
Well, yes. I mean, there's a lot of ways now that artists are being compensated outside of streaming. Because of COVID, it's made people do some things that they maybe weren't comfortable doing, and now they are. Things like the obvious things like live streaming, ticketed live streaming. You know, companies like StageIt have been around for 15 years. This is nothing new for them. They just announced this last week that Zoom is now going to allow people to use, ticketed events. So I think that's one thing that people can do, and clearly some things that have come out that are not necessarily new. They were around in the Pledge Music campaign, but now they're bigger, are things that we call experiences. So, for example, you can pay artists now to take a music lesson from them, or you can do songwriting with them, or they'll play on your record, or they'll write a song with you. And this is starting to take off. And for example, if you go to thelickoricequartet.com, and licorice isn't spelled like the candy, there's another word, licorice, which is Lickerish. So if you go to thelickoricequartet.com and look at their store, you're going to see these musicians that have played with a lot of very popular musicians, and they will write a song with you. They'll do backup vocals on your record. They'll record a cover tune for you. You can get on a Skype music lesson with them. Their keyboard player, Roger Joseph Manning Jr., plays keyboards for Beck. He tours with Beck. You can actually go onto the website and have a piano lesson from him. So there are lots of ways that musicians are becoming more creative about making revenue. One thing, if you haven't checked it out, look at cameo.com, where you can go in there and get some of your favorite artists to send a birthday message via their iPhone video. I did one for my dad.
Oh yeah, Cameo. Yes, I heard of Cameo. Right.
Yeah, my dad's a big Seinfeld fan, so I got the Soup Nazi to send my dad.
No soup for you.
Yeah, no soup for you. 1 year. Yeah. So there are a lot of creative things that you can do.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. You've mentioned a couple of times COVID. And COVID has ravaged industries, not even just music industry. I mean, across the board, so many different industries. But of course, the music in particular, a lot of venues are suffering, and they're actually trying to pass the Save the Stage bill to kind of help these venues kind of figure or sustain themselves, keep their lights on, pay their people somehow so they can make it out the other end of this COVID dark tunnel. But they're having problems with that. What do you think about this whole situation with how politicians are dealing with this new bill?
It's heartbreaking right now, and you are 100% right. In our podcast that came out yesterday for Your Morning Coffee, we talk about a story that was in Billboard. The headline was 4 things indie venue owners must do to survive the pandemic. And what they're saying is that there are thousands of these kind of almost mom and pop venues that live hand to mouth, that without kind of this Save Live Events Now, or, without some of this help, they could be going under, and they may never reopen again. And that has some significant ramifications on our music industry. We have to take care of these smaller venues because that's the lifeblood of the music industry. And it will be causing problems for many, many years if we don't take care of these things now. And, without getting into the politics of it, I will say that our government is on both sides of the aisle need to work with each other to get these packages passed so they can get this help out to not only the venues, but to the American people.
Yeah. We got to do something about that because
absolutely
a lot of businesses, and I was thinking about it yesterday, even the corner stores in Midtown Manhattan, the place where they supplied lunch to a lot of the people that worked in these buildings, even they're suffering. I didn't even dawn on me. I'm like, the shorthand cooks, the people that serve, all these people are affected. The collateral damage from COVID is amazing.
Massive. Yeah.
Massive. Not even amazing. It's massive. Yeah. Something comes of that.
Yeah.
The future of the music business as a whole. Where is it going to be 5, 10, 20 years from now? What do you think?
Well, I wish I knew I would be a wealthy man, but I will tell you I follow the trends as closely as anyone, and I can tell you that the first thing, we were talking about COVID and touring. Some folks are saying, 2021, we'll get back out there, and I don't think so. I think that we're going to start getting back to more of the touring in 2022, I hope. And then those venues hopefully will be in good shape, and those people that work in this industry, people that, tour support, people who do the lights and the sound and the merch and all of the above, we can get that back to where it should be. But I think, downloads were only around for a kind of a short time compared to the other configurations.
Right.
I tend to think that streaming is going to be around and be the major configuration for a long time. I think that the companies where music is not their core business will be the winners long term. And what I mean by that are companies like Apple, Amazon, Google. They do music, but it's not their core business. So if they need to spend a little bit more, invest a little bit more, they're going to be able to do that. Companies like Spotify, we all love them. Deezer, Pandora, which is part of Sirius XM. They're all great, but I guess what I'm saying is that there could be some consolidation going forward there. I think the big change in the music industry going forward, at least in the next 5 years, is going to be voice. All of these Amazon things and Apple smart speakers, and I can't say it because I have all of them on my desk. I can't say their names, or they'll all go off. Go crazy. But we're checking all of our releases on these smart speakers, and before the pandemic, the number one search term on those smart speakers, at least the biggest brand, was chill. And the reason for that is these are adults that are typically using these, and they come home, they're tired, they've been working, and so chill music was number one. Right now it's children's music because people are locked up in their homes. But watch the next few years on these smart speakers as they move to portable devices, as they move to your cars, as they move to, headphones and, all sorts of things. They're getting really smart. You can say things like, play the best songs from when I graduated. Play, play songs for a romantic evening, or whatever it is. It's becoming less about genre and more about mood. And the last thing I'll say on that, which I think will be a big, big deal going forward in the music industry, is giving credit where credit is due. Right now, all of these distribution companies are delivering music to the DSPs with different fields in the metadata. And what I mean by that is artist, title, those kinds of things, but also sidemen. And when you get to things like jazz, that's really important. When you get to classical, who's in that orchestra? When you get to pop music or even, any kind of music, it's like, well, who produced it? Who engineered it? Who wrote it? They're starting to get into that a little bit at Spotify. They have songwriter pages, but we need to get to a point in metadata where you can search, like, let's say you like a certain producer or engineer or a certain guitar player. You should be able to search across all 60 million tracks and say, I love this particular songwriter. What else has he written? Right now, we can't do that. But we're going to be able to do that. It's coming.
Even the obscure stuff that you never hear about. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm loving it so far. All right, so folks, we're going to be right back. We're going to get into the last segment with Jay Gilbert. Listen to a couple of these other songs.
Yeah, all right, so we're going to get into the next set of songs. So what we got going on here? All right, so we got Jay Bino, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's Jay Bino with The Message, and really dope songs. Always want to give a little bit of balance to hip-hop, and he really has something to say. And then we're going to go with a throwback with Tane. Yeah, man. Dope artist, bringing her back. Love to hear her voice. Love her whole style. Her song is called Think of Me. All right, so check this out. Jay Bino with The Message, and the comeback with Tane, Think of Me. All right, we'll be right back with some more Jay Gilbert in the phone zone.
Listen up.
You're listening to GCOM Radio.
So what you want us to do? We've been trying to get through to you. We had to shut the world down for you to see it was true. Half of y'all still believe we not equal to you. I bet your daughter got a whole different point of view. I'm digressing while you stressing. You pulling up with your vest on. You bulletproof but still got a hole in your chest. 846, the time that George went to his death. You put him on the ground and put your fucking knee in his neck. I know that every cop ain't a racist. I know that most white people don't judge by the faces. But if I'm angering you, something about your heart ain't true. And that COVID ain't the only thing that's bothering you. Let's take a moment of silence, put your fist in the air. This for all the blacks who took the fall so we can be here. You still feeling unsure? Come on, let me take you home with the sequel. Let's talk money so you can understand that we equal. Here's our feature presentation like you sit in that Regal. Enjoy the show, I'ma keep it real basic and simple. What if black culture went away? What if MJ decided to never fade away? What if Wayne ain't rap and never paved the way? What if Denzel never acted, did Training Day? That white money fade away, it's Oprah, it's J&B. What if Mahomes ain't win that Super Bowl for Andy Reid? Golf's an all-white sport, but Tiger takes the lead. Why can't you see that you bleed the same way I bleed? Now take a knee.
Oh my God. I want to hear more. GCOM Radio.
What am I waiting on? Searching to and fro for love. That's when I think of us. That's when I miss your touch. Thinking about calling you, making love the way we used to do. Should've never ever let you leave. What if you're my destiny? Do you still think of me? Do you still think of me? I still think of you. Can't get over you. Do you still think of me? Think of us. Think of our love. Think of the trust. Think how we had it all and let it slip away. Now that I'm all alone, baby, every day I think of you. I'm missing you, baby. I'm missing my baby. I'm missing you, yeah. Lately it's hard to sleep, much easier to dream. Trying to escape the pain, but every day you're still the same. Thinking about calling you, making love the way we used to do. Should've never
Yeah, man, that was Jay Bino with The Message. And of course with Tane, Think of Me. Powerful voice, powerful artist. And same thing with Jay Bino, man. Looking forward to hearing some more what you got after The Message. All right, so we're going to get right to it, man, because we got a lot of stuff that we need to cover for In the Phone Zone with Jay Gilbert. So without delay, yeah, folks, check some more.
All right, we have returned with Jay Gilbert in the Phone Zone on GCOM Radio. So for this last segment, we got a couple more questions. First off, any nightmare projects, Mr. Gilbert, that you like?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's a great question. And I'm going to be honest with you. The answer is yes. When I left Warner Music Group, that was my last kind of major label gig. My partner and I decided that we weren't going to work with toxic people. And we grew this business and everything's growing and it's working well. And we meet this guy and we're helping him, put out music. And he's a very successful business person. Just happens to be in on the medical side of things. And he is also an artist. And he wanted to put out this music. So we're putting the music out. And all of a sudden, it got toxic. And what we realized is there's nothing more dangerous than an educated person outside of their field of expertise, because they get successful in one area and they just think, well, I'm smarter than everybody else in the room. I should know this music business, And he wouldn't take our advice, and he wouldn't do the things that we felt could really help grow his audience. And it was a disaster, and it made us step back and say to each other, okay, going forward, we're never going to work with a client like this again. It's not about the money. You can't pay me enough, because this is our reputation on the line here, and we have to enjoy what we do. And I would encourage anyone to focus on those things that you really enjoy and the people that you really enjoy. Surround yourself with as much of that, and avoid those toxic people, even if it means you're not going to make as much money, because in the end, you're going to be so much happier. Yeah. And the money will come. If you find something that you really love and you're passionate about, trust me, the money will come.
Good words. Okay, so you said before, there's a lot of, the music business has changed. There's a lot of different artists. There's so many platforms. There's IG, there's TikTok, there's YouTube, all these. How do companies like yourself, or even through the traditional record companies, how are they competing with all these brand new artists that's coming out?
Yeah, it's hard when it's a new developing artist, because you're going from 0 to 60. That's the toughest lane in the music industry right now, is why should anybody care, right? And typically those new developing artists don't have the budgets to put together a radio campaign or to hire a publicist or, those types of things. But if you have integrity, if you're doing what you really believe in, if you're writing songs for you and not for other people, and you're creating this art that makes you happy, trust me, beautiful things will happen. People can smell a fake a mile away. If you're trying to imitate another artist, people can see that a mile away. But if you do what makes you happy and lights you up, and then it comes down to tools, right? There are all sorts of great tools that you can use. The obvious one is social media. Yeah, you can use social media that way. I'm still a big believer in live shows. Even though we're in that COVID area, we're going to come out of it at some point. You've got to get out and play in front of people. I was talking to an A&R rep the other day, and I said, how do you sign artists, with all this technology and data? And he goes, well, I go and look and see if there's a lineup around the block to see them play.
It's as simple as it can get. Let me see if there's a line. No data, no fancy app.
Nope.
Just, okay, do you see a line?
It was really kind of a wake-up call, because it's not all about your social footprint. There are artists out there making amazing music that don't have a huge following on social media yet. There are also those that have huge YouTube followers or TikTok followers that couldn't put butts in the seats. So it takes that intelligence, to look at that.
Yeah, I remember when Jessie J, I don't know if you know her. She's from the UK. She does R&B, pop music, but she centers on R&B, and she's great. I remember when she started out on YouTube, when she was sitting down in her bedroom singing random songs, and you even knew from the little videos that she was doing in her bedroom that she had a powerful voice. Like, oh my God, blowing the roof off. And then now she's this megastar doing what she does. Now, again, as we've been talking about, it's a different set of rules. Now, remember the days of the A&R. A&R would kind of like shape the artists, help the artists form their image, get their music right. But now with the technology, you could just sing, and then if you really have a talent, you know, and to be honest, you may not need a talent. It depends on what's your hook. And people get pulled in from that. Like, how do you deal with artists that like, well, you know what, I got like 500,000, you know, views on this one song. They love my music, and you know, I don't really like. How do you as a company deal with this new species of artists that's really, you know, feeling that I can handle this. I don't really need.
And look, there are some that it happens all across the board. We've all seen these YouTube stars that, you know, blow up. We've seen it like on Roblox and TikTok, and it's great. You know, that's fantastic, but that's an anomaly. Most artists, they have to work a little bit harder, and it develops over time, growing an audience. You know, like I said, it starts with that integrity and doing what you believe in. And we all know the real deal when we hear it. We all do. And it manifests itself in different ways. Maybe you know, you get goosebumps. Maybe the hair on your arm goes up, or the back of your neck, or you get a lump in your throat, or whatever that is. Yeah, man, when you see the real deal, you know it, and you can't really fake your way through that. Now, these big giant numbers, you know, sometimes they come from blowing up on a particular platform, or getting a sync license, or getting a record company partner who's going to invest in you and make you a priority. But you have to be careful, because record companies, and I'm not anti-record company, I've worked for record companies my entire career, but I will say that you need to be a priority with your record company, because you have one career, they're working 300 careers. And you need to make sure that you're with someone whose sole purpose when they get up in the morning is, you know, if you're Jessie J, you want to make sure that every morning that person from that label is like, what can I do to blow up Jessie J?
Right. I'm with you. And you know what, to be honest, most artists don't get as big as Taylor Swift and Jessie J. A lot of them, really I respect the music business in that sense, where you're dealing with so many artists, and not everyone is going to hit. So it's kind of like a gamble. Like, okay, I like this artist, and sometimes they can have a voice, but they don't have the look put together. They can have the voice and the look put together, but their attitude. And then, you know, so it's like, oh my God. So not everybody's
it's timing, you know, maybe they have everything, but the timing isn't right, because our music business is cyclical. Like, we'll go through periods where we like things like Lady Gaga, or things that are like really flashy, and, you know, David Bowie, Elton John, all that kind of stuff. Then maybe we go through a period like a grunge period, where it's really more, you know, people wearing jeans and flannel. And then maybe everything's kind of cyclical. And I've seen amazing artists who didn't make it just because of timing.
Yeah. I know a lot of artists that I've done live shows, been to a bunch of clubs, and I've heard artists that would knock you out live, but it just didn't happen for them. So it's weird. There's no formula to the music business.
If it was that easy, we'd all just follow that formula, right?
Exactly. Now, in your eye, who was the artist that gave you the best educational experience?
Ooh, boy, that is a great question. I think one of the artists that I learned the most, there's a manager, and then there's an artist. The artist, one of my clients, a guy named Brett James. You wouldn't really know probably his name, but he's one of the most famous people you don't know. He came to Nashville 25 years ago, had a record that had, you know, like top 15 or something, but he decided he was going to be a songwriter for other people. He's had 500 songs recorded by other people with 25 #1 hits, including Jesus Take the Wheel from Carrie Underwood.
Wow.
So he's one of those guys that he knows so much about how publishing works and how licensing works and how you can make a living in the music industry even though you're not the guy that's standing up on that stage. So I learned a heck of a lot from Brett James. And then probably the most I've learned is probably from a longtime client, a manager named Doc McGee. Now, Doc has managed everyone from Diana Ross and the Supremes when they did their reunion to Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Kiss. He's forgotten more about the industry than most people know. And I have a notepad full of quotes from meetings with Doc. He'll say these things, like, here's one of my favorites. He said that a friend of his one time said that he wanted to get into artist management, and he thought that would be cool. And Doc said, yep, everybody's a bull rider until you open up the gate. You know what I mean? So Doc is one of those guys. And he also, the last thing I'll say about Doc is that he tells it like it is. He tells it like it is. And that's one of the biggest compliments that my business, me and my partner, got from Otis from the Temptations, was he said that we tell it like it is. But Doc is one of those people. We were in a meeting with one of his artists, and they said, well, you know, we used to open up for the Rolling Stones. You know, why can't we do that? Why aren't we doing more of that? And Doc just looked at him and said, you don't have the heat. You just don't have the heat. And sometimes you just have to be brutally honest with yourself and with your clients.
You just don't have the heat.
You just don't have the heat.
That is draining.
Yeah.
Seriously draining.
That's going to fester. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, but at least you're honest, though. It's like boxing. You're going to know if you're good or not when you get in that ring. And that's
a good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So okay. So I saw your website, checking it out, Label Logic, and it seems like I saw you and your partner, the superhero guy. You bunch of superhero. Okay. Now here's my question to you: who would win in a fight, Spider-Man or Wolverine?
Oh my God! I think Wolverine has that weapon, man. He could take you apart, but Spider-Man can hit you from a distance. So I'm going with Spider-Man.
You go with Spider-Man? All right. Spidey sense can kind of
crafty, man. He can climb up a wall and throw a web around your head.
That's right. So it doesn't matter how sharp your blades are, man.
You won't get close.
So what do you miss about the music business?
What do I miss? Well, first of all, during COVID, I missed not being able to go into Amoeba and shop for records. I mean, I really miss that. And of course, live concerts, I miss that so much.
I know, right?
But just the new music business versus the old is I really miss. I mean, and look, there's still indie retail out there. There's still a lot of great record stores, you know, Amoeba, Millennium, in online and physical ones, but just not like it used to be. I used to love going into different cities, when I was on the road and going through those bins and finding, records. And, look, I'm an old guy, so it makes me a little sad thinking about, somebody discovering music now. You've got everything at your fingertips. You have one of these digital service providers like Apple or Pandora or Spotify or whatever, man, you have nearly 60 million tracks. If you want to listen to every Temptations record, you can do that right this second. You don't have to go shopping. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. But I do miss that romantic reading the liner notes and seeing who wrote it and produced it and putting it on. Because when you put on a vinyl album, man, you're engaged. You can't go away because in 15 minutes, you're going to have to flip that side. So you're not walking around the house vacuuming or talking on the phone. You're more engaged, and you're looking at the gatefold sleeve, and you're going, oh, wow, Smokey wrote that song. What other songs did he write? I don't know. It just seems like a more romantic, deeper experience to me. I miss it.
Listen, I agree with you. The one thing I do miss is the liner notes. Like, even if it was CDs or records, you would know where the artist recorded your favorite song. Oh, he did it at Electric Lady Studio. Who did the horns? Who did the piano? Like, to me, who is just as important as the main singer are the people who support those artists in those beautiful songs that they create. The pianist, the horn guy. Wait a second, who's the engineer? Bob Powers? Oh, wait a second. That guy was great the way he freaking mixed that down. Like, you don't have that. It's like the songs are out there, and that's it. It's like, what?
We need to fix that because that's such a huge part of music. And the jazz guys get this. I deal a lot with jazz artists. and they all play on each other's records, and they tour together, and they produce things together. And man, I want to know, when I hear something really good, I want to know, did Christian McBride play on that? What other things has he played on? And that's kind of missing. It's kind of missing today, and I do think it's going to come back.
I hope so. In some way, shape, or form, they got to bring it back. Now, I have another superhero question for you before I get into to Label Logic. Michael Keaton Batman or Christian Bale Batman?
I like Michael Keaton. He wasn't as tough, but he had that wicked sense of humor that I think those early superheroes had.
And Tim Burton, he's a genius director, so he put Michael Keaton in a proper light. Definitely. I'm a Christian Bale fan. I am.
I get it.
It's, Michael Keaton is the original.
He's more serious,
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe because it was like we haven't seen Batman since like the 60s Batman, and all of a sudden they hit you with the Tim Burton serious, gothic, brooding. So it was kind of like it set the stage for all these other Batmans that are coming out. So, yeah, I agree. Okay, so this question with Label Logic, and I'm surprised I don't have this question on my list. Label Logic, what was the inspiration getting into with your partner? Tell me about that.
Well, Label Logic came about because we had both worked in the major label ecosystem for many, many years, and we both found ourselves leaving jobs in the major label ecosystem. And we started talking about like friends that we had that were artists or managers that would hire us. And what would we do? So we started kind of sketching some things out, like what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Where could we really help artists? And in the areas that we were weak in, we grabbed partners. We weren't geniuses when it came to publicity and sync. So we found people who were, and we brought them in. And so we started working with a few of our long-term friends, clients, and realized that we really enjoyed it. And it's kind of like if you're a wedding photographer or a real estate person, a lot of it's word of mouth. And we didn't have to advertise. We didn't have to, go searching for business. It was really, you do right by people, and then they tell their friends about you. I told you about Brett James. The reason we got Brett James is because he knew Doc McGee, and we had done right by Doc McGee, and Doc knew Brett and said, hey, you're putting out a record, you need to hire my guys. And that's how it goes. And we didn't know it was going to be as enjoyable as it is, but I can't wait to get to work every morning. I just can't wait. And right. I love what I do. I have my own business, so I work almost every day, right. Which sometimes can be challenging. But, my office has been out of my house for 6-7 years anyway. So right. even under COVID, it's just, I come into my office and I do what I do. And a lot of what we do these days is via Zoom or via cell phone or via right. email. So you can do that from anywhere in the country. But
so what year? What year with Label Logic did you start it?
We started a little over 5 years ago, I think. Okay. Almost 6 years ago, we started kind of testing the waters and playing right. with, some clients. But we've been going full on for about 5 years.
I think, if I'm correct, maybe I'm a little rusty. I think that's fairly new as far as digital labels are concerned at that time. I don't know of many, digital labels that provided label services. I mean, all I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, was you had distribution. You had CD Baby. You had a list of them next to CD Baby, but nothing like what the record labels are going to now, as far as online, going strictly online. So you started kind of early on. There was probably some that was mixed up out there, but you being at Universal, it was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah. There were a few out there, and you hit it on the head. You really have to know the difference between what does a label do and what does distribution do. A label does what they execute the artist's vision. And right. they put together a plan. That's the hand-to-hand combat. What distribution does is they throw gasoline on your fire. They don't create your fire. The label creates your fire. And so you need to give them all of the tools that they need because they have regular meetings with retail and with the digital service providers, and you need to set them up with everything that they need, the plan, how you're going to drive traffic, all of that, all the marketing, give them all the bullets that they need in their gun so they can take care of business. What we do is really less about being a label, although we do run labels for clients, and more about label services and artist services, which really revolves around optimization. We run a label called Resilience Music Alliance, which is mostly jazz, and we won our first Grammy this year, and we didn't buy it.
Congrats. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a big thing for us. The band is called Ranky Tanky, and it's kind of about Gullah culture, if you're aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're really, it's joyous music. Like, you go to one of their shows, and you're clapping, and you're dancing, and you're walking out of there singing. And we didn't win the Grammy. They did. We were their label.
Right.
And they didn't, put ads in the trades, and they didn't lobby for anything. They just put out a killer record that didn't sound like everybody else. And that's what we try to advise people to do is, like I said before, find out, who you are as an artist and record music for you. And if you do that, beautiful things are going to happen.
So how do you guys find the artists that you want to connect yourself with?
Most of the time they find us. For the most part, they find us. What we turn down probably 9 out of 10 things that we receive. Number one, we have to believe in the artists, that they're genuine, and we don't want to work with toxic people. And frankly, there are a lot of folks that just aren't ready yet. They're not there yet with the quality of their music. So you mentioned Jeff Moskow, my partner. He also curates the Now That's What I Call Music brand. So he listens to the best music in the world and has for nearly 20 years. So he, more than anybody I know, he can listen to something and go, yeah, that's competitive, or no, that's derivative, or that's not good. And with those ears, we can kind of guide people and say, look, you need to work on honing your craft. You need to work on your musicianship or your songwriting or whatever, and come back, when you're ready. But I'll tell you, the most work that we've been doing lately is really either running labels or working with artist managers that have a roster. So you can have, you're working 2 or 3 different artists at different levels at any given time. Some are superstars, some are new developing, some are signed, some are not signed. And it's in that. That's where I find a lot of joy in what we do.
Well, is there a way to plug in as far as the artists that you hear about because of this new landscape, as far as all these digital portals getting music out? I mean, is there one particular way where you can make it as efficient as possible to have these people heard and like, hey, you know what? Because now I think now is great on a major side. Be like, especially if it's for the year, a lot of the Now records would be like, oh, you heard that song 3 months ago. Here's a bunch of other stuff that you would like to hear. And
that's right.
Like, is there something that could be done as far as providing something where it's a now of the now? You know what I mean? Of artists that people hear, like, hey, man, you got it, because it's all plugged into all of these digital music portals anyway, like Pandora and all that.
Yeah.
So. How come Jeff hasn't really, and you, Jay, have kind of like to go down that road?
Well, Now has a section on the CD called What's Next. And so you listen to, the hits. I think they put out, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 of those a year, and you listen to those and you listen to the hits. And then when they're done playing, it just plays on into some new developing artists. And I believe that you go to where the party is. So if there's new developing artists on Bandcamp, if there are new developing artists on SoundCloud, if people are doing, Twitch channels, or they're getting, I think that's where you win, is by finding your audience. And there are so many tactics that you can use to find your audience. But it comes down to kind of a regular release cadence. So let's take YouTube, for example. To be successful there, you don't just put your video there as kind of a garage for people to find. You create a channel and you regularly post there, and you get into kind of, maybe it's every 2 weeks, maybe it's every week, maybe it's every month, whatever it is, you let people know that on this day, on this week, you can count on new things coming from me, and you optimize your channel, and there's so many different things that you can do, but it's all about finding your tribe, finding those people, and they're out there, trust me, because no matter what you play, if it's Zydeco or heavy metal country or whatever you play, trust me when I tell you there's a audience out there. And the last thing I'll say is you can use social media to help you find that audience. There's so many great Facebook groups. Let's say you're into power pop. You go onto Facebook and you can find a dozen really cool power pop groups, and then you sign up for those and you talk to the admin and ask them if it's okay if you post things. And I mean, we could talk for hours and hours, but it's really all about finding your audience.
Right. Okay, so I have two last questions for you.
Okay.
I have two last questions.
Right.
Okay, so Fleetwood Mac, as everybody knows, they had their dream song kind of go viral again because of this guy that was on a skateboard listening to, and it hit the top 100.
Drinking a little ocean spray.
Drinking a little ocean spray, right? So because of that, it's on the top 100. Now, these are songs that happen. They came out 10 years ago, and all of a sudden it finds a new market. Now, in your eyes, who do you think has, or who would you like to hear more of today? One, The Police in the 1980s. Two, Creedence Clearwater of the 1970s. Or three, Simon and Garfunkel of the 1960s.
Ooh. Well, look, there's no wrong answer there, so this is just my personal preference. I love all that stuff, but man, if I was stuck on a desert island and you said, sorry, you can only have one of these, it'd probably be Police of the 80s. Those guys are such great musicians. It's kind of like when you listen to, some of these bands like, Toto or Steely Dan. Yeah, the songs are great, but they're such great musicians that it's like an onion. There's so many different layers, and you can listen to them over and over and over and then discover new things. And I think the Police are definitely one of those bands that I could listen to over and over and over.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Okay, and last question. Unexpected collaborations you would like to hear, different genres.
Ooh, I'm a big fan of mashups. I have one which is Smokey Robinson. I'm trying to think of, and Rod Stewart. It's Rod Stewart, Maggie May with Uptight by Smokey Robinson mashed together. And it is phenomenal. And I think, man, if you can mash up some of these, Stax, Volt, Motown, all of that Philly soul, all that great stuff, and you mash that stuff up with other things, other pop things like classic rock things, man, it doesn't sound like it will work. But
wait a second. I think we're onto something here. Wait a second. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. You got my juices flowing. Like, how would that sound? Like mashup. I don't know how it would be on the business side. That would be crazy.
By the way, that song is called Uptight Maggie, and I think if you just do a Google search, you might be able to find it somewhere. And if not, ping me later, and I'll dig it out of my my music library. But I think it's called Uptight Maggie. And again, it doesn't sound like it would work. And then you play it, and you're like, wow, it really works.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry. It was. No, it wasn't Smokey. It was Songs in the Key of Life.
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think it was Stevie Wonder. It was Stevie Wonder doing Uptight and Rod Stewart's Maggie May.
Okay,
sorry,
all right. I got you. That's all right.
Thank God I got it right. Somebody would have wrote in.
That's me too. I got
what are we talking about?
Oh, that's fantastic, Jay. It was great talking to you, man.
Yeah, great talking to you too, man.
Yeah, man. I think it was great. To me, I think this conversation could go on like another 2 hours because
clearly, you get a couple of music guys together with a little coffee and forget about it.
Yeah, you kidding me? So how can people reach you?
Thank you.
As far as getting, and then please mention your podcast again.
Thank you very much. You could, I think the easiest way to remember is just go to yourmorning.coffee, yourmorning.coffee, and all the information's there about how to reach me, how to reach our other websites, how to get on the newsletter for free, how to subscribe to the podcast.
Right.
I would love to hear from folks. Yeah, absolutely. Yourmorning.coffee.
Fantastic. And they can always reach you. Okay, that's great. Hey, folks, that was the interview in the phone zone with Jay Gilbert. It was a beautiful conversation. I tell you, this could go on another hour.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to go. Everybody's got to do what they got to do. So I appreciate you guys listening. And thank you, Jay Gilbert, once again for being upon the show right here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man, that was the interview in the phone zone with Jay Gilbert. Big shout out to Jay for taking the time out to really rap with us on the music business. He's been doing it for so long. He definitely has some gems to share. So, yeah, much love to Jay Gilbert, and much success with Labeled Logic. If you want to get in touch with him, of course, as he said, all you have to do is go to his own podcast, and you can check him out there. Go to Lyfeblood.com if you are an artist and you want to be heard. Yeah, that's dope. So, yeah, guys. And of course, I always have to say, go to Lyfeblood.com. Be a lifer, and I'm sure the R&B group that I play this song there, Lifers, it goes hand in hand. We'll see about that. It would be dope to have them. Yeah. So of course, as always, sign up, be a member, be a lifer, build your passion, whatever that it is, and get members to share with you $1 per month on a consistent basis. If you really dig what they're doing, man, just give them $1. We waste money, and we waste a whole lot of money on other things. And I think it's important that we do realize our power. As I always say, talk to each other, look to each other. The answers are in you. Let's build that network. So, all right, folks, I'm not going to have a show for next week. Because I'm going to be moving, and I'm going to be spending all my time unboxing, and I got new furniture, and I have to get that open and setting that up and positioning it. So I got a lot to do. Maybe I'll do the in-betweens. I'm not so sure if that's the name. I have to go back to the list and see what I called it before. Maybe I'll do that while I'm doing my thing there. I'll drop a little audio on, whatever that's happening in the time. Because, in 2020, news goes at the speed of light. You know what I mean? So whatever comes out yesterday is old news by tomorrow. But if whatever is juicy enough to talk about, maybe I'll just get on and record some audio right quick and share it with you guys. I appreciate you guys listening to the show with me and Jay Gilbert. I hope that you came away with something, or you just plain old like the show and you like listening to it as you were driving to work or wherever you're going. So thank you again for listening. I am out of here. Appreciate it. Enjoy yourself. Hopefully you voted the right way. And yeah, all that good stuff. All right, guys, I'm out of here. So peace.
Check it.
You just listened to GCOM Radio, powered by Lyfeblood.com. For the global community. We worldwide, baby. See you in the next go-round. From right here to your town. We out.